Samhain, Samhain, All Hallows Eve, or as most know it, simply Halloween. Happy Halloween, everyone. Of course, it's a very special time of year for people like us, right? The people who love horror year-round. This is our favorite time of year. A time of year where everybody wears masks, dresses up, and appreciates tradition. But it's also a time where the veil between the human world and the spirit world is at its thinnest, where creatures can potentially cross over, and where everybody should be safe. To celebrate my favorite holiday of the year, tonight I am going to be giving you guys a very special story. It is The Others, the story that was just released, but this is a live telling in front of a live audience. So no cuts, no added imagery. All my fumbles and stumbles are going to be in there, and you'll get to see the story from start to finish. I hope you guys appreciate this very special rendition of The Others. So once again, you've all found yourself at the campsite of the Orator. Well, please pull up your chairs. As you can see, my fire is stoked, which means tonight I have a very special tale to tell. That's right, for Halloween, we're going to be doing a live telling of a story. This is a story that I call The Others. So our story takes place in the early 90s, and you have Jared. He's about 4 years old, and he has an older brother named Nick, who's 6 years old, so two years apart. And they live in a really nice house. It's 3 stories. And if you were to enter the house through the front door, you'd basically be in like a foyer. And the entire purpose of that is just take your shoes off, hang your coat, stuff like that. But there's also a set of stairs that go upstairs and to the second floor, and then there's a third floor. If you were to continue past that foyer, you'd enter a living room, and then further beyond that, there's a dining room, a bathroom, and then all the way at the back, there's a kitchen area. And then if you were to exit out the back of the house through the kitchen, that's where most people enter the house, is through the back. So that front door, most people didn't use that for 2 reasons. One, the mom of the house, she had a really lush garden kind of all around the house, but more heavily in the front of the house. She did not want people messing with it. So nobody typically went through the garden in the front of the house. But the other reason was because the front door to their house was really heavy. It was one of these old oak doors, really difficult to get open. And so it just became common practice for people to come in through the back, take their shoes off in the kitchen, and then enter the rest of the house that way. And then if you were to go up to the second floor, there's Nick's bedroom is on the second floor. Parents' bedroom is on the second floor. Nick has his own bathroom on the second floor. And then if you were to go up to the third floor, there's a special guest bedroom. And then there's also Nick's brother, Jared, his bedroom is all the way up on the third floor. And they had kind of a weird living situation. So mom is a stay-at-home mom. She takes care of Nick and Jared. Their dad went away for work. So he'd leave early Monday morning, and he would work out of town for the entire week, and then he wouldn't get back home until either really late Friday night, or sometimes it was even Saturday morning before he finally got home. But when he got home, it was a big deal because he'd been gone all week. So as soon as he'd get home, he'd go and he'd find his kids wherever they were in the house. He'd pick them up, he'd give them a big hug, and he'd do like one of those airplane kind of spins, throw them up in the air and catch them. And then afterwards, he'd give them this chocolate milk. Now the chocolate milk, he got it from this local place where he worked. And so the only time they ever got that chocolate milk was when Dad came home from work. So it was like a really special ritual. He comes home, he finds the kids, picks them up, spins them, throws them in the air, they get their chocolate milk. So it's like they're looking for Dad to come home and for that ritual to take place. So our story actually begins on a Thursday, and it's on Easter break, and so Nick and Jared are both home. Jared's in the backyard with his mom. They're gardening, which is what she loves to do pretty much all the time. And Nick is in the living room just sort of watching TV, enjoying the fact that he doesn't have to be at school on a Thursday. When all of a sudden, he hears the front door open. Now remember, that's the one that most people don't use, right? he hears the front door open, and he hears the distinct tap of his dad's work shoes. His dad worked in an office, and he had hard-soled, like, dress shoes, made a very distinct tapping noise on the wood, and he hears his dad come in, he hears his shoes, he hears his dad's briefcase get set down. And so he's thinking, like, my dad's home a day early. This is freaking awesome, right? Not only do I not have school, but, like, now I get to see my dad. He runs into the foyer, and his dad is already halfway up the stairs. And so right away, alarm bells are going off for a bunch of reasons. Number one, Dad's home. There's a ritual that's supposed to take place. He's got to find us first and pick us up and throw us in the air and give me my chocolate milk. That's not happening. But also, he entered the front door, which nobody does. But maybe the biggest thing that was really weird was their dad was, like, crazy about no shoes in the house. You entered the back door, you took your shoes off at the kitchen, and then that was it. You do not wear shoes in the house. But there's his dad halfway up the stairs already with shoes on. And so Nick's like, this is really weird, but he's 6 years old. So, like, you know what I mean? He doesn't have a real concept of anything. And he's just excited that his dad's home. So he rushes upstairs after his dad, and he's literally tugging on his pants. And he's going, he's like, Dad, Dad. And his dad is just ignoring him. And as he's walking up the stairs, Nick is noticing he's, like, almost robotic. He's moving very stiff. And Nick remembers, like, he didn't even know if his dad was breathing. It was like this really mechanic march up the stairs. But he's 6, and like all 6-year-old boys, he has a dogged persistence that adults don't even understand. He follows him all the way up the stairs. His dad goes to their bedroom door, opens it, goes inside, and slams the door in Nick's face. And so Nick, you know, he's 6. He's devastated that his dad just acted like this. He cries, runs downstairs, goes out back, finds his mom, and through his sobs, he's basically like, you know, Mom, I don't know what's wrong with Dad. I don't know if he's mad at me or what's going on. I don't know what I did wrong. And his mom's like, baby, I don't know what you're talking about. Dad's not home till tomorrow. And he's like, no, he's upstairs in the bedroom. So his mom, of course, gets up, picks up his brother, and they go inside. They take their shoes off at the kitchen. They walk through the house. They get upstairs, open the door to their bedroom, the parents' bedroom, and it's completely empty. There's no one there. They look out the front. Dad's car, not there. And so their mom's like, you know what? Maybe Nick, maybe you just need a nap. Maybe you're overly tired, your imagination. She doesn't really know what to think, but she kind of dismisses it out of hand. She puts Nick down for a nap. And that's pretty much it. He kind of forgot about it. And 2 years pass before the next incident. So 2 years have now gone by. Nick is now 8. Nick is 8 and Jared is 6. So they're a little bit older. And they're both outside on the trampoline, jumping. Beautiful day outside. And their uncle at the time was living with them. He'd kind of gone through a weird living situation, and he needed a place to stay. And so he came and he's living with them for a little while in their guest bedroom on the 3rd floor. And so they're jumping outside on the kind of like the back end of the house, but on the east side of it. Their mom is on the complete opposite side of the house, gardening like she always does. And their uncle pulls in. And so they're like, awesome, uncle's home. And their uncle's a lot like their dad. Super excited guy, always takes time to play with them, just really fun-loving and never blows them off. They jump off the trampoline and run to meet him, and he literally walks through them. Like, not like a spirit would pass through you. He just shoulders them aside and literally knocks them out of the way like they're not there and just keeps walking inside. And they're like, "What? Hey, uncle," and they're trying to like get his attention, and he's ignoring them. And all of a sudden, Nick remembers 2 years prior when this happened. He's like, oh my God, whatever the heck that was is happening again, and it's happening right now. So he basically, tells Jared, stay with our uncle. I'm going to go get Mom. And he peels off around the side of the house to go get his mom. He gets over there. He's out of breath. They have a pretty big house, pretty big estate. He's like, our uncle's home. You remember that weird thing I told you about with Dad? It's happening right now with our uncle. He's there right now. Jared's with him. And so his mom, kind of curious, not at all alarmed. She's more curious than anything. Gets up, and Nick remembers he knew right away that she wasn't taking it seriously because she was kind of smiling, and she's like, he's not even supposed to be home. It's whatever's going on, it's not that. And so, of course, they go around the house. They enter through the kitchen like they're supposed to, take their shoes off. And now, as they're kind of going through, Nick is checking all of the rooms. Is he in the kitchen, the dining room, whatever's going on, until they get to the front of the house, to the foyer. They start to go up the stairs, and lo and behold, on that second set of stairs, there's Jared sitting on the stairs, and he's just bawling his eyes out. And, they're like, what's going on? And Nick is really worried that maybe he shouldn't have left his brother alone with whatever that thing was. And he's like, Uncle's gone. And their mom kind of like turns to Nick, and she's sort of mad at him. And she's, Nick remembers that she sort of thought Nick said something to Jared to make him think that their uncle was home, and he really wasn't. And she's like, this isn't funny. Now you're messing with your brother. I don't know what kind of joke this is, but cut it out because this isn't fair. And Nick's like, no, we both saw him together. He pulled in. We were on the trampoline. We both saw him. I didn't say anything to him. We saw him. We jumped off and greeted him, and he pushed us out of the way and went inside. And so then their mom kind of like, all right. So she turns to Jared. She's like, so what happened then? And Jared, he kind of rubs his eyes and kind of gets done with being, so upset. And he's like, he went up to his room. I followed him, and he wouldn't listen to me. I kept trying to tug on his shirt, and he wouldn't listen. He went all the way up to his room, and he opened the door and slammed it in my face. And then I opened the door to see what was his problem, and he was gone. He wasn't there. And their mom is like, maybe you both need a nap. And she's still, even though both kids have seen something weird, is kind of dismissing this. Like, I don't know what's going on, but you're both being weird, and I don't want any part of it. And so they're sitting in their Nick's bedroom, and they're talking about how weird this incident was, and they're kind of going over the details, when all of a sudden Jared realizes that the car that pulled in, it was the make and model of their uncle's car, but it was blue, and their uncle's car was red. And so he's like, it wasn't even his car. And so they're like, this is just really bizarre, and they don't really know what to make of it. But again, there's nothing they could do. Their uncle's gone. The vehicle's not in the driveway anymore. It's just sort of like one of those things. It's like, yes, this is strange. We don't have an answer for it. And then another few years pass. Now, over these next couple of years, it's another 4 years. So at the end of this, Nick is 12, Jared is 10. Over these next few years, this happened several times to them. But it always only happened when it was Nick or Jared or both of them. Their moms still never saw this happen. But they would see it where a family member would come in, and right away they knew because they would enter the front door, brush them aside, not pay attention, go upstairs, slam the door, disappear. And it happened enough to where Jared and Nick were kind of like, this is just a thing that happens, I guess. And their mom was sort of starting to think that something was actually going on because these kids are getting older, and this is still a thing that happens, and every time they're freaked out by it. And then everything comes to a head one day. So like I said, Nick is 12, Jared's 10. They're hanging out inside with their mom, and it is a Saturday morning, and their dad is supposed to be coming home with his parents. So dad and grandparents are all coming into town, and their grandparents are going to visit for the weekend. So it's Saturday morning. They're sitting around kind of expecting them to show up pretty soon. And all of a sudden, the grandparents' car pulls in. And right away, everybody gets a weird feeling because it's just grandparents' car. Dad is not there. But they're all thinking like, well, maybe he just hit traffic, or maybe that he came late, or whatever. There could be a whole host of reasons why it's just them and not him. And then just Grandma gets out of the car, no Grandpa. And they're thinking maybe Grandpa rode with Dad and she rode separate, and maybe that's what's going on. They're trying to figure this out, but it's weird. But also, whenever grandparents came into town, they always brought a lot of gifts. That was like one of the things. They didn't come to town all that often, so when they did, they had lots of gifts for the kids who were kind of spoiled. Grandma has no gifts, and so they're thinking maybe Grandpa and Dad have all the gifts too. And they're trying to figure out what's weird about this as they're coming outside and kind of absorbing this, when all of a sudden, their grandma, Nick and Jared run up to kind of give their grandma a hug and kiss and greet her. She, bam, knocks them out of the way, brushes past them, and they realize, oh man, this is happening right now. But Nick, he's like, Mom's finally going to see what the heck is going on here. And so Grandma brushes them aside, and their mom, she feels something's weird, but she's more angry that Grandma just knocked the kids out of the way aggressively and ignored them. And so she kind of steps in the way, and she's like, hey, what's going on? Are you okay? and Grandma knocks her to the side. And she keeps walking inside the house, and she just ignores him, goes right inside, and Nick turns to Jared. He said, "Yep, it's happening again." And their mom turns and she's like, "What do you mean it's happening again?" He's like, "You remember all these incidents? It's happening again." And so she's like, all right, they go inside, and by the time they get inside, Grandma's already all the way up the first flight of stairs, and she's getting ready to enter the room. Now, she doesn't have a room there, so she can't enter her room. The first room she goes to is Nick's room. So she opens up Nick's door, and she goes to close it, and Nick runs upstairs and puts his arm in the way, and she slams the door on his arm. And he remembers, like, she must be really strong to be able to slam the door that hard. Like, this is not Grandma. This is really weird. And so he blocks the door with his arm, and she comes out of the room because she can't disappear. The door is not closed, and she goes to his bathroom, and she opens it up, and same thing. She goes to slam it, he puts his arm in the way. She comes out, she goes to the parents' bedroom, same thing. He blocks it. And then she comes back out, and she goes back to Nick's room, and she tries it again, but she's becoming more agitated. It's pretty clear that she's getting very frustrated that she cannot complete whatever this ritual is. And so at some point, she decides to abandon the second story and go up to the third floor, but their mom has blocked the third floor. She stopped on the stairs and she's like, "What are you doing? What's going on?" And their mom is still kind of thinking maybe Grandma has kind of like lost her marbles or something like that. She still doesn't think something supernatural is going on. And then the Grandma, frustrated that she cannot ascend to the third level, starts freaking out, screeches, and then scratches the mom right across the face, shoves her against the wall and knocks her down. And the mom screams like, "Guys, get out of here. Go call 911. Get out of here." And then she turns and shoves Nick down and runs down the stairs. And then they all get up and they run out to meet her. But by the time they get outside, the door is already slammed. And again, gone. No car, no Grandma, just gone. But now they've all seen it. And then a few minutes later, here comes Grandma and Grandpa with Dad. Everything's totally normal. They obviously nothing happened. They were all fine together. And then basically after that, to this day, it still happens. Somebody will enter the house that they know, but it's not them. And they always follow the person and see the ritual. But from now on, they said they will never get in the way again because they don't want any violence. And so that's going to do it for today's tale. Please come back next time where I will have another exciting tale for you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Not just tonight, but every time that I upload new episodes. I really do appreciate it. It is allowing me to live my dream of telling terrifying tales. It's something I've always loved doing, and I love to continue to do it. Once again, if you or anybody you know does have a first-hand supernatural account that you'd like told here on the channel, please reach out to me either below in the comments or reach out to me on any one of my social medias, email, anything like that. I would love to feature your tale on my channel one day. So until next time, folks, please pull up your chair. My fire will always be stoked, and I will always have another tale to tell. Happy Halloween.